GM, the Rented Gang. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever it is you're tuning in. It is another Sunday evening with the Rented Podcast, and I'm live with you as your host for today, Boya Chibe. And for today, we'll be looking back at the year 2025 because if we're going to be honest, we can actually say that the year 2025 didn't run past all of us. It kind of lingered. It was a long ride for me personally. It was a year that demanded attention, patience, resilience. And for many people, I think it was a year that a lot needed to stay afloat, both mentally, financially, and emotionally. It was more of a survival year. So this episode is focused on we looking back at the year 2025 and the challenges, looking back at the year 2025, being able to talk about the challenges that people faced and being able to savor the good moments of 2025, all in this episode. And just as you guessed, with me here is my co-host and my friend, Chukwubudomo Mereze, our own conversational driver. And he'll be guiding us today on what we'll be talking about, which is how the year went and all. So, Chukwubudom, good evening. How are you doing?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to OT Pods. We are back. We're back stronger. We're back bigger, and we are ready for you all. Thank you very much, Boyachibe, for that wonderful introduction. And good evening to everyone listening. On the Space dashboard is our link to join our community and to get familiar with us, to become a founding member. You can check out the link on the dashboard, fill it, and you'll be added to the community. So Boyachiba has already given us a background on what to expect in this episode. This episode is not about rushing to what are we doing in 2026, where are we going in 2026, what's the meta. This episode is about fitting and reflecting. In Africa, we rarely do that. A typical example is the election seasons that we observe. Every election season, we just plan to remove the person in seat with no contingency plan on who is going to replace the person. So, um, having putting that into consideration, let's start gently. Before we talk about OT pods or the lessons or the trends or the previous or anything that happened in the previous year, let us break it down. Let's bring it down to, for me personally, 2025 was a good year, and I felt Iran because it was very eventful. I joined Web3 last year in 2025. I printed cash from Web3 in 2025. I started my own project in 2025. So for me as a creator and as a person, 2025 was a wonderful year. And it didn't give me enough time to achieve everything I wanted to achieve. How about you, boy Achiever?
Well, you said a lot already. For me, 2025 was basically survival, like I stated earlier. I had a lot of ups and downs, mentally, emotionally. I think 2025 was the year I had to grow up the most because I had lost most of the people that I had dear to me the year 2025. Following from 2024, obviously, I lost my dad in 2025 March. So having to learn how to live without a dad in 2025 was like the highlight of the year for me. And it was a lot. It was a lot. Aside other things that happened financially and otherwise, I like talking about projects. I was trying to also build a project in 2025, which didn't really work out. You get, so I had lots of failures. But aside that, I had lots of success too. So for me, 2025 was like a year of character building. It was a year I had to calm down and build my character. And I'm grateful for the year 2025, regardless of whatever it brought to me. So that's basically what the year was for me, and nothing much.
Yeah, yeah. For someone that was a first-hand experience of 2025 for you, I can testify that it was rough for you. I remember you trying to start a project and the developer running away with your money, a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks. But I remember in January 2025, I said something about 2025. I said 2025 was going to be a launch party. It was not the year everything was going to happen, but it's the year that will set in motion everything that is going to happen. And we cannot remove the fact that everything that is going to happen has already been set in motion. So having put that out of the way, we want to enter into the crux of this episode. OT pods resist rushing conversations. We don't enjoy rushing conversations, rushing moments, and flattering ideas. Ideas are meant to be thought on. Ideas are meant to be argued on. Ideas are meant to be philosophized on because no opinion is ultimate. Every opinion has a fault, and as far as an opinion has a fault, there's a remedy. And if there's a remedy, that means there are countless and countless opinions. So OT Pods is the platform where we reflect, where we sit back and think, like actually pause and say what happened. It's something Africans have forgotten how to do. We don't reflect anymore. We're always moving. We have this hustling spirit that doesn't work. Even the Westerners take breaks. They don't take the breaks because they are lazy. They take the breaks because it is necessary for you to reflect and count your eggs. If not, you will not know when a wolf is eating the egg. So while we prepare for this reflection and what moments from the previous year stayed with us emotionally, because most of us did not display or express how the year felt for us publicly. Um, we've already eased the atmosphere and we've already expressed ourselves on how the year felt. Boyachibe explained how he went through a lot this year, and I explained how this year was a great one for me. So apparently now two of us share two different opinions, and I wonder what's going to happen when we open the mic to the floor for them to share their opinions. Because no year is the same. And that's why when people say this year ran or this year was short, this year didn't give us the amount of time. For someone he had achieved everything he wanted to achieve. For another person he couldn't even start. And this year is another opportunity. For the other person he did a little. I did a list for 2025, and in the whole list I only achieved 7 out of the 9. And for me that's a win. But Achieve, our host, explained how he lost his dad, he lost his sister, but he won. He successfully did everything that he needed to do to make sure that everything was good, and he came out of 2025 successfully. I'll be handing the mic back over to Boy Achieve, um, because he has erroneously called me a conversation driver. He's the one that will drive this conversation today. And Boy Achieve, please take the mic and drive us to the promised land.
Thank you very much, Omereze, my friend. Yeah, you said it all. You said it all. Like you said, everybody shares a different view about how a year is to them because everybody lives it differently. You get, but then one thing is there. One thing is certain: did we live through the year? Because a lot of things happen, and then most of the times you're only just counting our losses, and we forget to count the wins too. So me personally, I'm someone who likes to count the losses and count the wins and put them side by side, juxtapose them, and then just then you know that yes, you have been blessed in the year, no matter how bad it is, you've been blessed. So that said, let's head on to some questions. You get, I'd like to ask you some questions, my co-host, so that we can get to understand some things that happened. Because I have to start. I want to start this with a quote my dad normally uses. He says, "Those who ignore the lessons of yesterday are doomed to wonder tomorrow." You get, that's what my dad always says, and that is something that resonates with this topic a lot. So I would like to know from you if there are any lessons you've learned from running OT pods in the previous year. I'd like to know particularly what made you question whether anyone was really listening. Was there a time that you actually thought, this thing we are doing safe, a shape person they even they listen to our podcast, Abi, we are just playing, Abi. What is there any time that this actually occurred to you, Chukubudom Omereze? Can you take us on that, please?
Because I'm in a big mood, I'm going to start from the beginning. In January 2025, I joined Web3 clueless. No Web3 education, nothing. I came into the space because they said they were making money. And between then and now, I can see a whole lot of difference. So before OT pods, I already had to battle the question of whether anyone was really listening to me as an individual before listening to me as a brand. I started brandless on Twitter. I learned Web3 under Nostalgia, NS of Web3's Academy, and then that was when I figured it out. I branded myself, my first brand in DeFi Chukubudom, chukubudom.store to currently Overeze. And so far, anybody who has followed this journey will see that there's no longer questioning, there's only conviction. You mentioned something about leaving. If you don't leave, I mean, what else are you doing? And for you to leave, you have to be free. Of course, sometimes I go to the insides of OT Pod stage and it makes me want to cry. but but yeah, like I asked our host today before the podcast, and I asked him, would it be fun if we just started an episode one had 1 million views? It wouldn't be fun. The story won't be sweet. So running OT pods in 2025 was not hard. Even running it in 2026 is harder because the break almost broke me. Took a lot of stress from us to go and do the things we needed to do and come back and still continue. It was really hard. It was really hard. I knew times when we make posts and in 3 days it doesn't even up to four likes and we are sending it to people in their DMs. I remember I've sent broadcast message over the past 4 weeks to a point that even my guys are telling me that I should remove them from the broadcast list. So questioning whether anybody was listening to me has always been a question from the beginning. Yeah. But at a point, let's say from July 25, I took away the idea of who was questioning, who was listening to me really, who was watching me. But you don't just know who. So I figured out that I could instantly do it. I was watching a reel yesterday where they did a reenactment of the story, the parable Jesus told, where he said a man had a visitor in the night and he had no bread to offer him. And he went to his friend's house to ask him, his friend, to ask him for bread. And he said unto him, the guest has come to my house and I have no bread. Help me with some bread. And the man said, my children have laid down and we have slept. There's no way I can provide bread for you. and the man persisted. The Bible says the man persisted in his asking and persisted. And the Bible said it was accorded unto the man for his persistence. His friend stood up and gave him bread as much as he needed. And he just broke something in me. He made me understand that it was not because of the friendship that the guy stood up. It was not because of the asking either. It was because of the persistent asking. So I took that and I ran with it. Consistent asking, persistent posting. I'm making sure that I'm showing up every day. I lost over 106 days last year and I regret it. I plan to check in every day of 2026. And that's why this episode is very, very, very important. Because if we don't sit back and look at what we've done in the past, we'll repeat the same mistakes. I saw Sage's post from yesterday. He said the cost of not listening or not observing history is not just innovation, but everything we've built. Not just will we need to build new things, but we'll lose every other thing we've had because we have to burn the ships and start afresh. So running multiples the previous year was not easy, but I made it easy for myself by removing the questions, by removing the ideas in my head and focusing on one thing, persistently showing up.
Wow, wow, wow. Omereze, you normally wow me anytime you speak at length this way. And I'm really, really glad the way you tackled that question for reals. And but it actually brings me up to my next question. Yeah, before we switch the roles and then you get to ask your questions, let me ask you one more question. You've talked about being persistent. You even brought about the analogy of the Bible story where someone was persistently asking for food and that's why they got the bread. Which brings me to my next question. We saw low numbers, no visibility at some point in 2025 while running OT pod and starting it. Yes, I am aware that new brands battle with visibilities and all, but let's be honest, how hard was it to keep showing up when you're not seeing those numbers? How did you get it together? How were you able to manage showing up consistently when there was no numbers?
Well, for real, I'll just say it's grace. I have grace to keep doing things even when they're not working. I'm the kind of guy that will be giving CPR to a dead man because I can't give up. So, but first of all, it will be very erroneous if I don't give a shout out to our 7 returning followers on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts. The 7 of them are the reason we come here every day, and our over 20 returning listeners on X. We love all of you, and you are the reason we come back every Sunday to come and do this thing, even when it doesn't feel like it. Even when we look at the post we made to schedule the space, and it's looking like nobody even saw it. But we start the space and we see people. We drop the recording and people tune in and still listen to the recording. We see higher impressions during the week than on Sundays. So when you strip away visibility and numbers, consistency costs you nothing but time. Now, time is something you can afford if you can afford it. Not everybody has time to afford. But I have time to afford. And one thing I learned from one of my mentors, Yagi, he said, don't ask what you're going to gain. The question you should ask is, what can I afford to lose? Now, select what you can afford to lose and lose it. It will be gathered for you in the storehouse of losses. But those are your rejection slips. Those are the things you look back to and you say, yes, we didn't come here by magic. It was not a miracle. It was process. It was progress. It was consistent work. And if you build your personal brand first before coming to build a brand that seeks a very big mission like OT Pods, democratizing intelligence for African youth, a small boy from a small state in Nigeria trying to revolutionize Africa from Twitter. I mean, you shouldn't expect visibility as a normal person, as a logical person. And the only thing you can do is to consistently show up here. And one day, you actually change someone's life. And when that person comes out and says, I listened to this episode and it changed my life. I listened to this episode and I finally figured out this thing I've been thinking about that nobody has been able to calm down and explain to me. You're making. I've been in other spaces where they spoke about this space, and I hear people talk about how interesting this space was, how insightful, and the most beautiful part is how we integrate the community, we bring them up, they share their opinion, they say how they feel, we make it a community podcast. It's not easy to freak that kind of reaction. In fact, it's not easy to freak any reaction from anybody. So when you strip away the numbers, which I don't even look at, I only look at those numbers at the end of the week. On Sundays like this is when I go to look at the numbers. Because for me, the numbers don't matter. What matters is the impact. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as we are showing up, we're making impact. Subtly or publicly, impact must show. There's an African proverb that says little drops of water is what makes the mighty ocean. If you don't start dropping the water now, when will you start? So consistency did not cost me anything but time, and only time I could afford to lose. Thank you.
Wow, you just switched it up on me. You just brought a whole different view to this. I like that quote from your mentor Yagi. It's not about what you can gain, it's about what you can afford to lose. And then when you think about it strategically, yes, if you set out and say this is what I'm affording to lose, whatever gain that comes out of it wasn't even expected. It just came. And then it's when you don't even expect to gain something, that's when you gain something the most. I listened to a podcast where they asked Don Jazzy. He asked him, did you really think you were going to be this big? And Don Jazzy replied simply, he said, I was okay being number two. That reply, that subtle reply, it changed the way I thought about things. I was like, if Don Jazzy at that time could didn't even bother being number one, he was just there doing what he loved doing. It made me view life and consistency in a different way. It meant that you can just show up and what you want to do what you love doing, and you don't even care as long as there's just one person that you can afford to impact their lives. You've done noble. And that's just about the reason why we show up every single time. And yes, I'd like to shout out to our 7 returning listeners on all streaming platforms, especially the guy from Jordan. Yeah. My friend Umere is always happy anytime he sees that guy return to listen to our podcast. And then we are sending our love from here. So that said, let's move on to the next part. I think Omereze, you have to like anchor this part. Let's I'll give you the mic for you to take us to the challenges that we faced. Yeah, take us through the challenges that we faced, section of the challenges and all. Let's get to know some of the challenges that we faced in the year 2025 and how we got to overcome them. Just let's just breeze through that.
This episode is somewhat bittersweet because we went through a lot. Setting up OT pods took like 1 week because there was a lot of back and forth, back and forth. In fact, OT pods has been in the works since 2023 and never saw the light until 1 week. And that's why I said It's not about what you are planning to gain. It's about what you can afford to lose. You could afford to lose small money for promotion. You could afford to lose small money for branding. You could afford to lose time to be doing this every Sunday. And we said, why wait till there's something to gain when we can lose? So in I've built a Web2 brand. Since 2019, I've been running a Web2 brand. And I've seen that there's no business that is easy. There's no business that is just a one way traffic. You invest, you get money, you invest. No, there must always be exigencies. And in moments where I've seen podcasts of our Oga Pitobi, he said that the amount of people who come online to talk now are illiterate. No, that was not how he put it. He said that the people who actually have value, yeah, that was how he put it. The people who actually have value to bring are silent because there's so much noise. And I figured out that I was part of those people. I was part of those people that were silent. I would rather not engage in a conversation than for us to start arguing a conversation or a concept or an idea or a philosophy or a philosopher that I know well, and you're replying based on two IG reels you watched over the last weekend. So I would rather just keep my mouth shut and watch. But I looked at it over the years 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. If this noise keeps uh, having uh, what do they call it? Will I call it screen time or airtime? If this noise keeps having the reception is getting, if this noise keeps, which it already has, the noise has taken over the timeline, the noise has taken over our media, the noise has taken over our politics. Nobody knows what we are doing anymore. All we are doing is based on vibes. So I decided, let's start OT pods. Now I cannot call my dad and his age mates, but I can call my age mates and we can put our hands together. No country changes their policies or their politics or their system of governance by waiting for the government to do that. Revolution will be done by us. In fact, revolution is nothing but responsibility. Until each of every one of us African sons, African daughters, take the responsibility of making Africa great again, personal, not as a group, not as a state, not as a nation, but as a person. We would just be shooting ourselves on the leg and waiting for Westerners and the world to come and clean our injuries. Starting OT pods was not easy. There was the issue of funds. There was the issue of visibility. How long could you do it? I know there were Sundays that Boyachide will call me and I'll tell him, oh, I don't feel like coming to your house today to record. This kind of thing. What would they do? Not really. I don't tire. And he'll tell me, no, come. Some days, the both of us will not even have data to host the space. It will sound like a joke, but sometimes the both of us will not have data to host the space. But at the end of the day, we'll show up regardless, even if it means borrowing the data. Why? Because there's a reason. And the reason is what? We need to democratize intelligence. There's so much noise. There's so much unclear information. There's so much misinformation. And the funny thing is that the misinformation is not just in Africa alone. It's in the West. They are misinformed about us. We are misinformed about them. And that's why we think that all our aid and all our help will come from them. So the aim of the orientation podcast is to reorient the African youth, to change the misinformation. The previous year taught me that thinking publicly forces humility. Yeah, 2025 taught me that if you're able to say what you think out, It means you're humble enough to hear the opinion of another person. And one thing I learned in 2025 that stuck with me is that tradition is the illusion of permanence. Nothing is permanent, not even tradition. So no matter how things have been done over time, it doesn't mean that it's permanent. Opinions age fast, but principles don't. So I figured out that running OT pods was not about content, it's not skill. I thought it was something you could do with vibes. I remember our first episode, I can never forget how unnatural the host came in. Up till today, I still make fun of him because I didn't expect it. But with time, it was practice. It wasn't it we didn't know how to do it. We've never done a podcast. We are not media trained. But we decided we're going to start this and we are going to learn on the job. No matter how bad it seems, no matter how bad it looks, no matter the mockery we face, no matter how terrible our insights look, we will show up every Sunday and we are going to do it in the best way we can. And look at us today, episode 3, and we are better. I listened to our episode 2 recording, the edited one on streaming platforms, and it's just fire. Everything is natural. So if the practice in patience, we're patient. Boyachibe groomed Boyachibe groomed his eloquence to be able to host this space. I had to go and learn and unlearn a lot of things to be able to filter my language for this podcast, for me to be able to be clear as possible, to be comfortable in even replying to a question that Boyachibe asked me and say I don't know. Many times, in many occasions, growth, progress looks like confusion. It looks like the end of it all. It's not always applause. There was this tweet I made about other sounds, and I said the mistake I made about other sounds was feeling that because it was good, it would get applause. What is good doesn't get applause, it only gets conviction, and conviction doesn't shout. And that's why every day I see people that join this space. Every Sunday, I see people that join this space every Sunday, and I shout out to them every time because it's not about what they are going to gain. It's not about what they want to hear per se for now. It's about the conviction they have in this brand, and it's because of them. I've always said it's because of them that we show up every day. So 2025 came with a lot of challenges. But our major challenge was training ourselves to be media personalities. That was the biggest challenge we had in 2025 because it's not something you learn easily. It's not People go to school to learn these things, and we just started. Our first episode, we didn't do a rehearsal. We didn't do anything. We just hit the ground running in Tinubu's voice. So, Boyachibe, what did you think about our media training episode? And how do you think we fine tuned our media training so far? And what can we do to get better?
Uh, Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amarias. You've said it all. You said it all. Like my friend would say, Ogenefe your favor. I'm someone who's heavy on learning on the job. Yeah, I believe that once you start, nobody was born with knowledge. Every knowledge that somebody has now is acquired is either acquired through experience or through learning. And if you're afraid to fail, most of the time you're never going to get those experiences. So we never started perfect. It was never a perfect venture, and I think that's the reason why we even had to start, because we now figured out that we don't need to start perfect. Like you said, this has been in the works since 2023. We've been thinking of how to get it started, how to make it perfect, how to make it the best podcast in the world, and all and all and all. Yes, you might might have the right idea to want to change the world, but if you're waiting until it's being set up professionally, you may never even, the world might never hear it. So once we figured that out, I think it took us just 1 week to set this up and we got started. The first space we even had to when we were trying to set up a couple of things, we even had to rug mistakenly, and then we came back and it was crazy. It was we had to, like, we failed like I think 4 times before we had to deliver the first episode. It was like lots of cuts and joins and all, but then the thing is that we started and we believed that we could do it, and we did it. And since then it has gotten better. If you go to the streaming platforms and you listen to episode 1, listen to episode 2, you're going to see that there is a difference. And then listening to this episode 3, you'd see that there is a whole lot of difference. And it's all bent on we believing that we can do it, and believing that we have a lot to learn and unlearn. My dad will always say you have to be humble enough to agree that you don't know, for you to be able to know, because it's something that we actually is actually an oversight for most people, because most people don't agree that they don't know. In thoughts they might say, yes, 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 me sef I know, say I know this sabi, but in reality, if you tell somebody you know sabi this thing, their most of the time their response is actually them being feisty and like, which one be say I know sabi this thing, all those kind of things. Exactly, nobody actually calms down to wait and say, na true I no sabi this thing, or how I go take sabi this thing. So when you see that, I think for us now, we had lots of challenges, but where we started conquering them and where we started winning was when we had to calm down, look back, and understand that we are not perfect. Nobody was born perfect, but if we believe we can, we can. And I think that's where we got it right. Understanding that we don't know it, we don't have it all figured out, but we'll figure it out on the way. And I think this is what has brought OT Pods to your ears, and it's going to get better. It's definitely going to get better. We're going to get more people in here. We're going to get people crowding. We're going to get people and crowds listening in. It's only going to take time. So that's definitely, I think I should have answered your question, yeah, on my reason.
Yeah, you kind of answered my question, and you also brought in new uh, corners of that question that I did not even bring in. We started imperfectly so that we could perfect. If you start a perfect project, if you start a perfect product, then you won't sell it. It's for you. When you're perfecting it, you get to build. When you're perfecting it, you get to build with people. And that's why, even as Africans, we need to start fixing Africa. No matter how. We don't have to wait till Tinubu comes out and say, me self, I want to protest before we say, okay, yes, now we know that Africa can be better. With the corruption, with the nepotism, with the racism even in Africa, with everything that is going wrong in Africa, we can still fix Africa. All we need to do is to start as imperfectly as possible. And he also said something about humility in in saying I don't know, or even accepting the opinion of another person. It's a virtue. I won't even say that it's something that everybody can have. It's a virtue. It's something you have to go and be intentional about. You have to realign yourself, reorient yourself. It's part of why you should be part of the OT gang, so that you will understand. I got a new follower yesterday, or rather, day before yesterday, and it was someone made a suicidal tweet. I was like, he said, does yearning make you, can yearning end your life, or something like that? And then I made a witty comment, and the person replied me, not everyone shares your opinion. And I replied him, true. And just because I accepted that my opinion is not universal to everybody, and even in that situation, as relatable and as workable and plausible as that my opinion is, I could still accept that yes, it is not entire, it's not ultimate. And he saw the humility. He saw that this person person understands perspective and perception. Until we understand that life is not meant to be perfect, we are the ones trying to make life perfect. We are the ones trying to force ourselves into a perfect life when we can start from imperfection and perfect slowly and see the beauty of process and the beauty of progress. So, Boy Achieve, we left. We ran away from our OT gang for almost 3 weeks. And the holiday break of 2025 was really, really eventful. We had your dad to bury, we had the Christmas to celebrate, we had New Year, we had weddings, we had a lot of in real life events that it was almost like we forgot that we had a family here. But definitely we didn't forget. Every Sunday I'll text him and we not go do design. Just tell him to say please we still there online. And he'll be like no, allow them when I miss us small. So the holiday break came with a lot of mixed feelings. As much as we needed to rest, we were not resting because we were uncomfortable with the fact that there was no prior warning that we were going to be leaving. And like we all know, the timeline never stops, doesn't wait for anybody. So while we're appearing to be resting, because that's the word, we're not resting, we're appearing to be resting. The timeline was moving, and it seemed like people were moving and winning, and we're just in one place. But the truth is that silence forces clarity, and it is in the place of silence that you hear clearly. We sat back, we retrospected, because like I said earlier in the beginning of the podcast, the history we don't pay attention to today will not just cost us innovation. It will not just cost us trying to make a new thing. It's not going to cost us trying to upgrade what we have to a better thing. It's going to cost us everything we've built. We'll have to burn down and rebuild. So it is very important to retrospect. It's very important to sit down. That's why the Bible says that the voice of God is a still small voice. It's not loud. So you need to be in a silent place. You need to be in a place where you have your full focus for you to hear. So we stepped back and we we put our heads together. We made new updates that you'll be seeing soon. We made new partnerships that you'll be seeing soon. The break was a reminder that productivity is not just an identity and that resting is not quitting. Sometimes resting is recalibration. Sometimes resting is realignment. Sometimes rest is not even rest because we're not resting. Every day we're on the drawing board. Every day we're scouting people. Every day we're drafting cold DMs. And it seems like we wasted 3 weeks that we would have been using to do podcast to plan. But in the long run, we'll see that 2026 is not just going to be a launch year. It's going to be a year where we also celebrate. So, boy, Achieve, looking ahead to 2026, what's our goal for 2026? Anytime I talk about our goal, I get too excited. So please do this and do it fast because we're already running out of time.
Uh, yeah, it's okay to always get excited because yes, yes. If you don't get excited, if your dreams don't scare you, then I don't think they are big enough. It's always nice to get excited when you talk about your goals. And as much as we love to say it, I'm someone who doesn't really like to plan. No, it's not like I don't like to plan, but then there's how I don't like kind of goals, kind of like setting. It feels like it's going to pressure me into something. Yeah, it feels like it's going to pressure me into want to do something that just to be able to achieve those goals. But yeah, yeah, if you as we love to say it, I'm someone who doesn't really like to plan. No, it's not like I don't like to plan, but then there's how I don't like kind of goals, kind of like setting. It feels like it's going to pressure me into something. Yeah, it feels like it's going to pressure me into want to do something that just to be able to achieve those goals. But yeah, yeah, as a brand, as a human being, you have to set plans from the day the year starts. Like your dad would say, he says you cannot expect to achieve something by the end of the year when you don't set a milestone for yourself. So yeah, for OT pods this year, um, basically, I think my goal, my main aim for this brand is for us to reach more people, because our aim is to get people oriented and to get as much youth oriented, because uh, the world is moving fast. Lots of trends are happening. We are moving into tech related eras where people make enough money online. There are new tax laws. There are lots of things that are happening that affect the youth directly. So I'm hoping that OT becomes a place where these discussions can happen in depth, where we can get to slow down and talk about these things that are happening and help to break it down in a way everybody is going to be able to understand. Not like everybody, because everybody can't understand, in a way that most people will be able to understand or take out something from it. So for me personally, and this brand, I believe that my aim for OT Pods this year is for us to be able to reach more people, for us to be able to show up every single Sunday, to able to, because there will be obstacles, there will be challenges, for you to be able to scale through every challenge that we're able to face this year and to come out on top. Every other thing, every other thing is like there's this saying, there's a surviving is winning, Franklin. Every other thing is bullshit. So I just want us to survive, because I know that with survival comes a whole lot of things. With survival comes a whole lot of things. So yeah, my co-host Omerieze, for me, OT Pods this year, my goal is for us to survive and to keep waxing strong and get to reach more people, get to spread the news, get a lot of people into the oriented gang, show up in place in real life events, just basically take OT Pods to the next level.
Yes, yes. But I beg to differ. We are not going to survive in 2026. We are going to thrive. We survived 2025. 2026, we are going to thrive. Like you said, we are going to be pushing more numbers. We are going to be more directed. Our topics are going to have more direction. We're not just going to be dilly-dallying with issues. We'll be focusing on, we'll be narrowing our topics to more sentimental and sentient issues. And don't worry, you people will enjoy 2026. Uh, 2026 is just going to be full of a lot of interesting nuances that will be very uncomfortable for some of us. But it's very, very important that we go through all of those nuances, we go through all of those uncomfortable questions because they matter. They matter. OT pods exist because thinking is becoming rare. Eriga tweeted something recently, and even Andrew Tate. It's I think when I start thinking of something, I just start seeing things that relate to those things on my timeline, and I'm like, if everybody is seeing this thing I'm seeing, why? I don't know. Why are we still where we are? Imagine views yesterday was still tweeting and explaining how InfoFi is different from Yapping. I mean, in big 2026, somebody does not understand the difference between InfoFi and Yapping. And when you come outside in the main road, you will say that he's doing DeFi. So we've gotten to a point where people don't even like even the least thought of shame, like that if they ask me this thing outside, I don't know, is no longer there because people bask in ignorance these days. It's not just that they don't know, they don't want to know. And they have an illusion of what they feel it is that you must accept, even if you know. So OT Pod exists for those who are tired of relating with these people that have decided not to think. For me, and like Boyachibe said, he said it's not for everybody. It's for a select number of African youths who are ready to start changing Africa as easily as what's this my Burkina Faso brother's name? Traore. People who are willing to take responsibility as individuals and drive Africa to the next place. So at this point, I would like to hand over back to the host so he can open the floor to the audience. If the previous year, if 2025 taught you something you would love to share or challenged you, changed how you think, if OT Pods changed how you felt with our 2 episodes, tell us too. The feedback I get from our brother from the Kingdom of Judah gives me so much joy. Anytime he texts us in our DM, I reply him quickly because for me, that's our international listener. And Utipod's already international. We have only 2 episodes. They can play now. So at this point, I'll be handing over to Boya Tribe to round up this episode. It's been a
Been a
great
great
one.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, my guy, you're going global, man. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. We've been brief as we can, and yet a lot has been said. My lecturer will always say, there was this my lecturer that I liked most, my mentor and uncle, Dr. Eseni Azodo. He always say, a good speech is as short as a mini skirt. Short enough. Is it too short, but yeah, long enough to cover the talking points. So I think this episode is was short enough, but then it was still long enough to cover what we went through last year and how we scaled it and the plans for next year. Said we have a couple of listeners who has been here since we started. We have Cryptfake, we have Debs.
Georientation podcast. Any um, audience contributions? Thank you so much for being a part of episode 3, Georientation podcast, democratizing intelligence, one African youth to the other. 2026 will move forward calmly, curiously, and together. Together, we'll make Africa great again. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless Nigeria, and God bless Africa. Good night.